They say betrayal hurts the most when it comes from strangers, but mine came from my own blood. The two people I trusted more than anyone, my wife and my daughter, turned against me. And this is the story of how their betrayal gave birth to my revenge. My name is Michael. For years, I believed I was the luckiest man alive. I had a wife named Sophia, who I thought loved me with all her heart. I had a daughter named Emily, who I adored more than life itself. To the world, we were the perfect family. People envied me. They called me blessed. They said I was living the dream. But dreams are fragile things. Behind the walls of my home, shadows were beginning to grow. Sophia's smile no longer reached her eyes. Emily's laughter felt distant, almost rehearsed. I told myself it was stress, or maybe I was imagining things. But deep down, I felt something slipping away. I remember sitting at the dinner table, watching them whisper to each other. Their eyes avoided mine. Their voices dropped when I entered the room. I felt like a stranger in my own house. The warmth I once knew was gone, replaced by a silence that screamed louder than words. That night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, I felt a chill in my chest. I didn't know it then, but the family I loved so deeply was already planning my destruction. And soon, the man named Michael would never be the same again. After those uneasy nights, my suspicions only grew stronger. Sophia no longer shared her day with me the way she once did. Her phone was always in her hand, her smile always guarded. Emily, my daughter, had become a stranger in my own home. She avoided my questions, her laughter reserved for someone else. I tried to convince myself it was just a phase, that families go through changes. But the distance between us was no longer invisible. It was a wall I could feel every day. At dinner, they whispered to each other, their eyes darting away whenever I looked at them. I felt like an outsider at my own table, a guest in the house I had built with my own hands. One evening, I returned home earlier than expected. The sound of their voices carried through the hallway. I stopped, hidden in the shadows, listening. What I heard froze my blood. They weren't talking about school or work. They were talking about me. Sophia's voice was sharp, filled with contempt. Michael is weak. He doesn't even realize what's happening. And Emily, my own daughter, laughed softly and replied, "Don't worry, Mother. Soon he'll have nothing left." And in that moment, the truth I had been running from stood before me. The two people I loved most in this world were plotting against me. And as I stood there in silence, something inside me broke forever. I stood, frozen in the hallway, their voices echoing in my ears. My wife, Sophia, and my daughter, Emily, the two people I loved most, were laughing at my weakness. Every word they spoke was like a dagger piercing my chest. I wanted to rush in, to scream, to demand answers. But something inside me stopped. Instead, I stepped back into the shadows, silent, invisible. My heart was breaking, but my mind was awakening. That night, I realized the truth. I was living with enemies disguised as family. The man who once trusted blindly was gone. In his place, a new Michael was being born. I walked into my room without a sound. I stared at myself in the mirror, my reflection almost unrecognizable. Tears burned in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I whispered to myself, "You've taken my love. Now I'll take your peace." It was not a cry of pain, it was a vow. From that moment, I decided I would not confront them with anger. No, that would be too easy for them. Instead, I would smile. I would play the role of the clueless husband, the weak father. And while they laughed at me,
I would be building their downfall. That night I lay awake, not as a broken man, but as a man reborn. And in the silence of my room, I made a promise. Sophia and Emily would regret the day they betrayed Michael. From the next morning, I became an actor in my own house. I smiled at Sophia as if nothing had changed. I praised Emily for her studies, pretending I hadn't heard her cruel words. They thought I was blind, but in truth, I was watching more closely than ever. At breakfast, I laughed at their jokes, though my heart was burning inside. I kissed Sophia's cheek, though I knew her love for me was long dead. I asked Emily about her day, though I knew she was plotting mine. Every gesture, every word was part of the mask I now wore. Inside, I was no longer the man they remembered. I was studying them, memorizing their habits, their weaknesses. I noticed how Sophia always checked her phone at midnight. I noticed how Emily left the house with excuses that never made sense. Every detail became a weapon I would one day use. But I couldn't do this alone. I needed someone I could trust, someone who knew me before betrayal poisoned my life. That's when I called Daniel, my childhood friend. He was shocked when I told him the truth, but he didn't hesitate. He said, "Michael, if they've chosen betrayal, then you must choose strength." Together we began to plan, not with anger, not with violence, but with patience. Because revenge, I realized, is not taken in a moment. It is built, slowly, carefully, until the enemy never sees it coming.
That night, after speaking with Daniel, I felt a strange calm inside me. The pain of betrayal was still there, but it no longer controlled me. Instead, it had transformed into something sharper, something stronger. I was no longer a victim. I was a man with a purpose. I sat alone in my study, staring at the photographs of my so-called family. Sophia's smile, Emily's innocent eyes, all lies. I whispered to myself, "You've taken my love. Now I'll take your peace." It was not just a thought, it was an oath carved into my soul. From that moment, I decided I would not confront them with anger. No shouting, no violence, no tears. That would only give them satisfaction. Instead, I would destroy them slowly, piece by piece, until they begged for mercy. Daniel warned me, "Michael, this path will change you forever." I looked at him and replied, "I've already changed. The man they betrayed is gone." He nodded, and together we began to plan. I started by observing them more closely than ever. Every lie they told, every secret they tried to hide, I collected it all. I became a shadow in my own home, silent but always watching, and with each passing day my oath grew stronger. They thought they were clever, that I was blind, but what they didn't know was that I had already declared war, and in this war I would not lose, because I had nothing left to lose, and they had everything. From that day onward, I became a shadow in my own home. Every smile I gave Sophia was a lie. Every kind word to Emily was a mask. They thought I was still the same weak Michael, blind and harmless, but in truth, I was studying them more carefully than ever. I noticed Sophia's late-night phone calls, always ending the moment I entered the room. I noticed Emily's sudden trips, her excuses flimsy and rehearsed. I kept a notebook hidden in my study, writing down every detail. Times, dates, patterns, nothing escaped me. Each note was another thread in the web I was weaving around them. Daniel helped me quietly. He taught me how to trace their hidden accounts, how to follow their digital footprints.
The more we uncovered, the clearer their betrayal became. They weren't just planning to leave me. They were planning to strip me of everything, my money, my reputation, even my dignity. But I stayed calm. At breakfast, I poured Sophia her coffee with a smile. I asked Emily about her classes as if I cared. Inside, I was laughing at their arrogance. They thought they were clever, but they were already trapped in my game. And as I watched them play their roles, I whispered silently to myself, "Keep lying, Sophia. Keep mocking me, Emily, because every lie you tell brings me one step closer to your downfall."
I knew I couldn't fight this battle alone. Sophia and Emily were clever, and their betrayal was carefully planned. If I wanted to win, I needed someone I could trust completely. That's when I turned to Daniel, my childhood friend, my brother in all but blood. When I told him the truth, his face darkened with anger. "Michael," he said, "they don't deserve your silence. They deserve to be exposed." But I shook my head. Not yet. Revenge is not taken in haste. It must be built. Daniel understood. He had always known the way my mind worked. Together, we began to gather evidence. Daniel traced Sophia's hidden bank accounts. He uncovered transfers she thought were invisible. Emily's secret messages, her late-night calls, they were all recorded. Every betrayal was captured, every lie preserved. At night, Daniel and I would sit in my study, piecing the puzzle together. The more we uncovered, the more monstrous their plan appeared. They weren't just planning to leave me, they wanted to strip me of everything: my money, my reputation, even my dignity. But I stayed calm. I smiled at Sophia. I praised Emily. I played the fool. They thought I was blind, but in truth, I was watching them fall into my trap. And with Daniel by my side, I knew one thing for certain. Their empire of lies would soon collapse, and I would be the one to bring it down. With Daniel by my side, the time had come to make my first move. I didn't want to destroy them all at once. No, that would be too merciful. I wanted them to feel the ground slipping beneath their feet slowly, painfully. Sophia had grown used to her secret credit cards, the ones she thought I didn't know about. She used them for her hidden life, her secret pleasures. One night, with Daniel's help, I quietly cut them off. The next morning, her face turned pale when her card was declined at the store. She came home furious, blaming the bank, cursing under her breath. I watched her rage with a calm smile, pretending to be concerned. Emily, too, was about to feel the sting. Her tuition payments, the ones she thought were secure, suddenly bounced. She panicked, calling the university, demanding answers. I listened from the hallway as her voice cracked with fear. To her, it was a mistake. To me, it was the beginning of justice. At dinner that night, Sophia slammed her fork on the table. "Michael, what's happening with our accounts?" she demanded. Emily glared at me, her eyes filled with suspicion. I shrugged, feigning confusion. "Must be a bank error. I'll look into it." They exchanged nervous glances, their confidence beginning to crack. Inside, I was laughing. This was only the first strike, a small taste of the storm that was coming. And as I watched them squirm, I whispered silently to myself, "This is just the beginning."
The moment I made my first strike, I saw the change in their eyes. Sophia's calm mask began to slip. Emily's arrogance started to crack. But instead of fear, they turned their frustration on me. One evening, Sophia stormed into the living room, her voice sharp as a blade. "Michael, you're useless. You can't even manage a simple household account." Her words cut deep, but I didn't flinch. I lowered my head, pretending to be ashamed, while inside I was smiling. Emily joined her mother, her tone colder than ice. "Father, you're pathetic. No wonder people don't respect you." I looked at her, my own daughter, and for a moment my heart ached. But then I remembered the whispers I had heard, the betrayal I had witnessed. That ache turned into steel. I let them insult me, let them believe I was weak, because every cruel word they spoke only fueled my fire. Every insult was another reason to destroy the empire of lies they had built. Later that night, I sat alone in the dark, replaying their words in my mind. But instead of breaking me, they strengthened me. I whispered to myself, "Keep mocking me, Sophia. Keep spitting on me, Emily. The more you hate me now, the sweeter my revenge will be." And as I closed my eyes, I knew one thing for certain. Their cruelty had unlocked a side of me they would soon regret ever awakening. By now, Sophia and Emily had shown me their true faces. Their insults, their mockery, their cruelty. It no longer hurt me. Instead, it gave me clarity. It was time to move from silence to action. I knew I couldn't strike them in private. No, their downfall had to be public, undeniable, unforgettable. So I planned a dinner, a grand celebration. I told them it was for Emily's birthday, a night to honor her. Sophia's eyes lit up with greed, Emily's with pride. They thought I was still the fool, desperate to win their love back. But behind the invitations I sent, there was a different truth. I invited lawyers, bankers, and trusted friends. I invited people who mattered in society, people whose opinions could not be ignored. And of course, Daniel would be there, my silent ally, ready to reveal the evidence we had gathered. For days, Sophia and Emily prepared for the dinner. They bought new clothes, practiced their smiles, rehearsed their lies. They believed this night would be theirs, a stage to flaunt their power. But only I knew the truth. This night would be their undoing. As I watched them laugh and plan, I felt no anger anymore, only patience, because the trap was set, and soon the world would see Sophia and Emily for who they truly were.
The night of the dinner finally arrived. The house was glowing with lights, the table set with silver and crystal. Sophia walked in wearing her finest dress, her smile sharp with pride. Emily followed, radiant with arrogance, believing this night was hers. Guests filled the room, lawyers, bankers, respected faces from society. They greeted me warmly, but Sophia thought they were here for her. Emily believed they were here to celebrate her. Neither of them knew the truth. As the cake was brought out, I stood tall at the head of the table. I raised my glass, my voice calm but heavy with meaning. "Tonight," I said, "we celebrate not just a birthday, but the truth." Confusion flickered in Sophia's eyes. Emily laughed nervously. Then the screen lit up. One by one, documents appeared. Bank transfers, secret accounts, hidden messages. Recordings of whispered conversations filled the room. The laughter died. Gasps echoed through the hall. Sophia's face turned pale. Emily's hands trembled. The guests stared in shock, whispers spreading like fire. Their betrayal was no longer a secret. It was a spectacle. Sophia tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Emily's eyes filled with tears, but not of guilt, of fear. I looked at them both, my voice steady. "You thought I was blind. You thought I was weak. But tonight, the world sees who you truly are." And in that moment, their empire of lies collapsed before everyone's eyes. The silence after the dinner was deafening. Sophia sat frozen, her face drained of all color. Emily's hands shook as she tried to hide her tears. But the damage was done. The world had seen their betrayal. The very next morning, the calls began. Sophia's so-called friends refused to answer her. The women who once praised her now whispered behind her back. Her reputation, carefully built over years, crumbled overnight. Emily's downfall was even swifter. The university called, demanding explanations for the scandal. Her scholarship was revoked, her enrollment suspended. The girl who once walked with pride now hid her face in shame. I watched it all unfold with quiet satisfaction. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to lift a hand. Their own lies were destroying them faster than I ever could. At home, the atmosphere turned heavy. Sophia avoided me, her arrogance replaced with fear. Emily no longer mocked me. Her eyes were red from sleepless nights. The house that once echoed with their laughter was now filled with silence. And as I walked through those halls, I felt no pity. This was only the beginning of their punishment. They had taken my love, my trust, my peace. Now, I was taking everything from them, piece by piece.
The days after their downfall were filled with silence. Sophia no longer stormed through the house with arrogance. Emily no longer mocked me with her sharp tongue. Instead, I saw fear in their eyes every time they looked at me. One evening, Sophia finally broke. She came to me, her voice trembling, her pride shattered. "Michael, please forgive me. We can fix this. We can start again." Her words were soft, but I could hear the desperation behind them. For years she had treated me like nothing, and now she begged for mercy. Emily followed soon after. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched my arm. "Father, I was wrong. I didn't mean it. Please don't hate me." Her voice cracked, her arrogance gone, replaced by fear of losing everything. But I stood still, my face calm, my heart cold. I remembered every insult, every betrayal, every night of pain. Their apologies were not born of love, they were born of fear. They didn't regret what they had done, they only regretted being caught. I looked at them both, my voice steady, almost whispering. Forgiveness is a gift for the innocent. You are guilty. Their tears fell harder, their pleas grew louder, but inside me, there was no pity left, only the fire of revenge burning brighter than ever. Their tears no longer moved me. Their pleas no longer touched me. For years I had begged for their love, their respect, their loyalty. Now they were the ones begging, and I was the one who held the power. Sophia tried to cling to me, promising change, promising devotion. But I had seen her true face, and there was no mask left to hide it. Emily wept at my feet, calling me father, as if the word still had meaning. But I remembered her laughter when she mocked me, her whispers when she betrayed me. I knew forgiveness was impossible. But revenge was not yet complete. Exposing them was only the beginning. Now I would take away the very things they valued most. Sophia's wealth, her status, her name, I would strip it all away. Emily's future, her pride, her dreams, I would shatter them piece by piece. Daniel and I had already prepared the final steps. The lawyers were ready, the documents signed, the traps set. Soon Sophia would find herself penniless. Soon Emily would discover that every door she once walked through was now closed. And as they stood in ruins, they would finally understand. The man they betrayed was not weak. The man they betrayed was their executioner.
The next phase of my plan began quietly, almost invisibly. Sophia woke one morning to find her accounts frozen. The cards she once flaunted like trophies were now nothing but useless plastic. Her calls to the bank were met with silence because the bank now answered to me. Emily's world collapsed just as swiftly. Her applications for internships were rejected, one after another. The doors she once walked through with pride were now slammed shut. Everywhere she turned, her name carried the weight of scandal. At home, the tension grew unbearable. Sophia paced the halls like a caged animal, her pride shattered. Emily wept behind closed doors, her arrogance replaced with despair. And I moved through the house like a ghost, silent, untouchable. Daniel kept me updated on every detail. The lawyers had filed the final papers. The properties Sophia thought were hers were now legally mine. The inheritance Emily expected had already been redirected. One evening, Sophia confronted me, her voice trembling. "Michael, you can't do this to us. We're your family." I looked at her, my eyes cold, my voice steady. "Family, you destroyed that word the day you betrayed me." And as she broke down before me, I felt no pity, because this was justice, and justice was finally mine. Sophia and Emily had lost everything. Their wealth was gone, their reputation destroyed, their future shattered. The house that once echoed with their laughter now stood in silence, heavy and cold. One evening I found them sitting together in the living room. Sophia's eyes were hollow, her pride broken beyond repair. Emily clung to her mother, her face streaked with tears. For the first time they looked small, fragile, powerless. Sophia whispered, "Michael, please, we have nothing left." Emily sobbed, "Father, don't leave us like this." Their voices trembled, but my heart felt nothing. The man who once loved them had died long ago. I stood before them, calm and unshaken. "You took my love and turned it into a weapon. You took my trust and buried it in lies. Now you sit in the ruins you built with your own hands." They begged again, but I turned away. I walked out of that house, the night air cool against my face. For the first time in years, I felt free. Not because I had destroyed them, but because I had finally reclaimed myself. And as I stepped into the darkness, I whispered, "This is the end of betrayal, and the beginning of Michael's new life."